The chat is already popping. There's already people.
Yeah. Welcome into the post-game show, guys. Ev could not be here tonight as much as he wanted to, so we had to get me and Sam on the Bannertown build down. We put the little twist on it, little spin on it for the post-game show. So Sam, I mean, thanks for coming on. I know you haven't done the post-game shows.
I know.
Ev's mostly taken them, but I know you wanted to talk shit about the Lakers, and you couldn't.
Of course I do.
Do so. So
I told everybody. I told you the Lakers are not good besides LeBron and Davis, and look at that. Westbrook plays well for 4 possessions of the entire game, and besides that, he holds the door wide open for the Celtics. And it was really great to see Tatum, though, play well for a second straight.
Forget Tatum for a second, Sam. This is Lakers bashing territory. We're bashing the Lakers right now. Fall back under 500, too. 8-9. It's not going to work.
With one of the softest schedules, if not the softest in the league.
And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they put him back in. Bench Russell Westbrook for the end of the fourth quarter.
I think he might have hurt himself.
They were not. Look, the Westbrook experiment clearly isn't working.
No, it makes no sense for them to have decided, you know what, we're not going to take Buddy Hield, who would be a fantastic fit next to LeBron because he's a knockdown shooter. Instead, we're going to pick up Westbrook, who is 5 inches shorter than LeBron and plays the same as LeBron does, but is significantly worse at it. Right. And we're going to stick him right next to him.
Sounds like a plan to me. Sounds like a good idea. And you know what's funny is it didn't even really work while LeBron was out, because you might think that the only way that it would make sense is like, well, you know, him and LeBron both kind of, you know, take parts running the offense, and you know, while LeBron's out, Westbrook can do that job for them. It's like, no, it's not really working. It's not. And you're right. I agree 100% with you. Buddy Hield would be better on this team. And people can say, you know, Buddy Hield right now, as far as like his, you know, he's not doing anything amazing for the Kings this season. But you know, they have other players they're prioritizing over him. Like, you know, he's not a priority for them anymore. Which, you know, if he was on a team like the Lakers, that would work, I think. But anyway, enough about the Lakers. We'll go back into the Laker bashing a little bit. But you mentioned Tatum getting back on track tonight, and boy, did he get back on track. I mean, yeah, back-to-back, I should say, because the Hawks, you know, they lose, but he plays well. And I don't know if you know this, but I have a bet outstanding with Ev that I guess I'm not allowed to exactly say what the bet is right here, because it does involve the pregame shows, the postgame shows, some of the streams on YouTube. But I have a bet with him with Tatum's struggles, and it was about, you know, what his percentages were going to be over these next 4 games, the last 2 being 2 of them. And I'm just saying it's not looking good for me. That's all I'll say. The bet is not looking great for me based on what he's done so far.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly looks a lot more like his old self. He finished a lot of times around the rim tonight, which is not something we were seeing out of him. That to me is huge. And Scal over the last 2 weeks or so has just absolutely loved to tell us how strong Tatum has gotten. But Tatum, before today, had not played like he'd gotten stronger. Even against Atlanta, he was taking a lot of jump shots, but I was very happy to see him continuing to go to the rim today. He got himself to the line quite a bit too. Not something we've seen, Tatum getting help from the officials. And
you know, a lot of players have not had help from the officials this season. That's just the way it's been.
Which is great, by the way. No problem with that.
But a season high 37 points, or I shouldn't say season high because he had the 41 against Charlotte, but second highest point total of the season. 11 boards, also his second highest of the season. So you could really argue, especially against the Lakers, and I know, you know, the Lakers aren't exactly juggernaut this season, but you could argue his best game of the season, really, this tonight, especially with the shooting percentage, because it's with how he's kind of had to bring it along here recently. I'd say so. Like he's ready to bounce back, and that's what they've needed. And honestly, like from kind of the top down, it's not just Tatum. I mean, we can get into some of the other performances. You know, Marcus Smart with his season high. Yeah. Dennis Schroeder with a little bit of a revenge game, 21 points. Even Josh Richardson played well with the 15, Al Horford with 18. And it's like, you know, if you get Brown back, and you don't need everybody scoring like this, but you get Brown back and he's putting up 25 to 30, and then you have just these other guys just chipping in offensively. Like, I don't need 22 from Smart, 21 from Shooter, 18 from Horford, and 15 from Josh Richardson. You know what I need? I need, like, if Brown's coming back and playing at a high level, I need, 10 to 12 from Richardson. I need 13 to 14 from Horford. I need, 12 to 13 from Smart. I need Schroeder. I think he needs to be your third scorer, in that 15 to 18 range. But like, if all you need from those guys is, to me, you don't need them to excel. You need them to be kind of exactly what they've been over the course of their careers and not much more. And I don't think that's asking a whole lot. And that's, if you get that, this team will be really, really good.
All I'd really like out of the supporting cast is just consistency. And I think from the top down, the team has been inconsistent on offense. So if you get that figured out, I mean, just look at tonight. You got a bunch of contributions from everyone. Like, you listed off all the point totals. It was great. You had Smart really spark the team in the first quarter. They looked dead in the water starting the game, which they consistently have done all season. But he was going to the basket, getting good looks. And then Schroeder continued to get to the basket like he has all season. He's probably been your most consistent scorer besides Brown before he went out.
Yeah.
But then everyone else kind of followed in suit. Tatum going to the basket more than we've seen. He was actually finishing again. And then Richardson has continued to be great ever since you highlighted him, KJ. You
pretty much, yeah.
Take all the credit for that.
I mean, yeah, he must have seen it. He must have got motivated. But no, but it really, he has been a lot more effective, and they're clearly making a point to put him in better spots. I mean, because I didn't like how they were using him over the first week or two there, and they rectified that for sure. But even with Schroeder, like, you knew, and it was kind of a question to me of, because both of them had a strong case for it. Schroeder had a stronger case, but of who was going to be that third scorer. Who's going to step up now that they didn't have Kemba and they didn't have guys like Gordon Hayward who left. Like, who's going to be the third scoring option on this team? And Schroeder has stepped up and done more than even I expected him to do. I mean, tonight you knew he was going to come out against the Lakers and want to do something.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You knew he was going to have a point to prove against them. And 8 of 14 shooting with 21 points, 6 assists in the game on top of that. Like, he was really, really good tonight. And they won by 22. I feel like it was one of those games where it was actually closer than the score even tells you, because it was more, back and forth, and not necessarily back and forth. They pulled away in the third quarter, and it was, a decent enough lead. But Schroeder really was a huge part of growing that lead, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they needed his contributions tonight for those reasons, and he really came through.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned, like, it felt closer than it ended up being. At the beginning, when they were kind of hanging around, but it felt like they were down 20 in that first quarter, and that just wasn't the case. But to me, once they kind of figured it out, it felt like they dominated the game, and the stats will tell you. I think it was 100-70 after that first quarter. So to me, it didn't even feel as close. I did get a little bit nervous at the beginning of the fourth there when they couldn't get any stops, though. I didn't like that, especially after we've seen the Celtics blow 2 19-point leads so far this season. Blowing a 12-point lead is nothing compared to that. So,
yeah, I honestly wasn't as worried. I just felt like they were playing so well tonight. Like, they were clicking on all cylinders to me. And it was, we touched on it a little bit. The Dennis Schroeder stuff and the ball movement and everything. And I mentioned his name while we were rattling everybody else off. But the game Marcus Smart had tonight offensively, this was like peak Marcus Smart offense. And I know we've seen games gone crazy from 3, and he's, and that's become, those have been standout games from him offensively. But the way he was attacking the basket in this one, like, you remember the lefty layup he had over Anthony Davis? Like, that was kind of nasty. Like, and I think that's going way back, that's some of what made him a top pick and why people thought he was going to be this great point guard in the NBA, because he has that in his bag. And we haven't seen it much, but we saw it tonight. He pulled it out, and it was, again, needed. And it was spectacular. I think I can honestly say it was one of the best offensive games I've seen him play. 9 of 13, only shot 2 threes, 1 of 2 from 3, which is like what people were screaming at Marcus Smart to stop doing for years, is shooting threes. He did it tonight, and it really worked. 6 assists, 1 turnover. Like, that's just beautiful. And then the plays he made, some of them were you'd really marvel at,
Well, the dagger pass to Tatum there in the fourth off the drive from the right corner, Tatum in the left corner, acrobatic pass hits him right in the chest. I mean, it was fantastic. And you're absolutely right, KJ. Jack and I, and you would come on the pod with us over the summer, and we were discussing, how's he going to adjust now that Kemba's gone? Like, is he going to have to be the third guy, like you talked about earlier? And I really felt like he was going to buy into the facilitator role, and he seems to have done that at least over the last week or two. He's getting the assist numbers up. He's certainly not shooting as much as he had been in years past, which is great. And he's more carefully picking his shots. Getting to the basket, if he's able to make that a point of emphasis, like he must have clearly made it like something in his head. He was going to go and get to the rim tonight. If he's able to do that more often, he's going to create for everybody.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned his assists have picked up. I want to see what the averages were, since I think pretty much I'm looking at it now. I'll try to do the math real quick before while you're saying something about what I'm about to bring up. But you heard so many people about, clamoring about after those comments he made, like, oh, once January whatever rolls around,
yeah,
out of here. And I feel like he is shutting those people up right now. Like, they're honestly, if you asked me like a couple weeks ago, I would have been more open to that because of the struggles, because of everything that was going on. Now, if you ask me, like, I'm not sure that I want to trade Marcus Smart. Like, the way he's playing now, I want to keep this kind of player on my team.
Yeah, and you know me, I've been the biggest Marcus guy. I mean, I've got the jersey always hanging up in the background in the pregame. That's my guy, favorite player. But I really started to think about it after the 2 and 5 stars. Like, damn, do they really need to get rid of this guy? Are they going to have to trade him after extending him? Once the time does come. I wasn't clamoring for it for sure. Obviously rooting for him, but oh man, like if he is able to buy in and continue to play this way, it's really going to boost the team. It was just so nice to have somebody else score today. They had all kinds of guys scoring, including him, and he was making great decisions, whipping the ball around. I'm just elated after the win tonight. And, it seems like every time the Celtics have a good win, they do not have very much time to enjoy it because there is a back-to-back again tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of unfortunate, but hey, I mean, might as well. Also, you can look at that as
well. It is OKC,
not letting the momentum go to waste. Yeah, that's nice, because when you looked at this next kind of 4-game stretch here, if you went dated back before the Hawks game, they really only needed a split here, and now they have OKC and the Rockets, and it's like you should take care of business there. And now we should really be talking about this team getting back on track. Like, it should be there's if they drop one of these next two, even if they have Jaylen Brown or not, inexcusable. And they might even have Jaylen Brown for at least one of these, if not both. I mean, he was questionable coming into tonight. So
I was shocked he did not play today.
I thought because of the LeBron thing, like LeBron was coming back in this game. So I thought there was a chance that the Celtics just said, you know what? Yeah, like throw.
I thought everybody was playing today.
Yeah.
Him and Rob Williams.
Yeah. Well, Rob, it just stinks that they're both dealing with this crazy stuff. But, and not that the Lakers have been, again, this dominant offensive bunch, but the way that they were able to control the game, and they end with 108, which is solid enough. But yeah, you want to just look at what LeBron's numbers were today: 23 on 10 of 16 shooting. I mean, he played pretty well, and I think they highlighted it on the broadcast. And Anthony Davis got off to a really hot start, but didn't do much after that. So I mean, that was good.
Isn't that funny? You felt like he was going to drop 50 right off rip, especially after he threw down the alley-oop from Rondo.
Yeah.
I mean, which was a fantastic pass. But then you're right. He really didn't do much else. What did he finish with? 28?
He had 31. He had 31. It was, I mean, like even still, you talk about dropping, 15 that quickly and then, 16 the rest of the game. And by the way, he had the second, or I guess third worst plus minus on the team, the worst among Lakers starters. He was a minus 14 tonight, Anthony Davis.
He was the worst out of all the starters.
Yeah.
Really?
The starters. Westbrook was minus 12. THT was minus 12. LeBron was minus 4. So he was the best of those guys. And then Avery Bradley was a minus 7. So, yeah, Anthony Davis, it was not good for him. Do you know who led the Lakers or I guess didn't lead them? Was last on the Lakers in plus minus technically?
Oh boy. I don't think it could be Rondo because he wasn't out there long enough.
No, it wasn't Rondo. No, this
Oh,
is
man,
uh, it was
Mello.
Malik Monk.
Oh, that makes sense. It seems like they were getting everything they wanted when he was out there.
Minus 20.
Yeah.
Malik Monk tonight was not good. By the way, to circle back to the Marcus Smart thing, over the first, I want to say, let's see what this is. First 8 games he played, and you remember those 8 games. If you remember what that in that Chicago game and that loss, he had 0 assists. A lot of people kind of highlighted that, and were kind of critical of him after that one. I'm trying to do, let's see, 27, 30, I think that is. So he averaged, I think, less than 4 assists per game over those first 8. I think it was 3.75 assists per game. I think I'm looking at the right numbers. Yeah. Let's see. That was 15, quick math, 21, 24, and 28. Yeah. So 28 divided by, or it might even be less than I thought. So either way, yeah, Marcus Smart's assist averages weren't very high. It actually was. It was whatever 3.75 over the first 8 games. Since then, it's almost doubled. 7 assists per game over the last 6. So to your point about him passing more and kind of making that a point, and we thought he was going to come out of the gates with that. I mean, that
Yes.
seemed like their mentality, and he didn't, but now he is. So I mean, it's kind of come back around, and I think a lot of the things with the team have worked that way. You know, Mark Smart's passing, the defense, even Jason Tatum's shooting now, you could say, of recently, like the things that we were hoping would be there at the start of the season weren't, but now it's like, okay, that's what I expected to see this season.
Yeah, especially, Marcus, he has played so much better. One thing that I think got swept under the rug with him, and a lot of people didn't want to buy it or believe it or whatever, is he certainly was dealing with some kind of illness through the first couple games. He missed. Did he miss a game because he was sick, or did he just play through it and didn't play well?
He missed the Washington game. I think, no, you're right. It was because he was sick. I remember that. Yeah, I think he played through it for a while, though. He played through it for a couple of games in there, and then they just sat him down against.
Yeah, it was just something no one talked about. Like, whatever he was dealing with must have been kicking his ass because his numbers were not good. And especially shooting, he was turning the ball over, wasn't able to get by guys to create. I mean, we're talking about it the whole show so far. Him getting to the paint tonight was huge. And if he's able to do that more consistently, it makes things easier for everyone else. That's why Schroeder has been so impactful for the team, because he averages like 16 drives a game.
Yeah. And he had some nice ones tonight too, especially, against some of the Lakers. I think he had one on Anthony Davis that I was like, that, like I said, you just know he had, I don't know if he had necessarily bad relationships with those guys or not. I don't know what their relationships are like, but I mean, he had to feel something in tonight. And but anyway, let's. I meant to go to this earlier, but some of the chats, some people are talking some shit about the Lakers. GG Celtics. We beat LA. We got this one, which is a little weird. LeBron is so ugly, I'd wear a mask.
That's such a strange target. Yeah. See, like if I'm you, I'm saying, well, the strange thing of LeBron's a target is his face. I'm going for his hair. I think he still needs to concede and go bald. It was not looking very good today. Horford is the same. Horford needs to concede.
Andrew saying after the first quarter, that was the sexiest basketball I've seen since the Bird era. And I don't know what the kind of total, I know, like I would like to see the total passes they had, because there were a couple possessions, and you mentioned the Marcus Smart assist at the end to Jason Tatum in the corner. Like there was a lot of passing going on in that possession. So that was good. So overall, only 22 assists tonight, which isn't a number that technically jumps out at you, but it still felt like the ball movement was pretty good in this one.
Yeah, and one thing that impressed me, so the Lakers put the zone on to begin the fourth, and you could see they kind of looked lost out there, which is so bizarre because zone is such an easy defense to break down. All you have to do is move the ball and stand in the right spots, and you'll get around these guys. They were able to break that, and that to me is such a good sign, because in the past, even going back to the bubble Eastern Conference Finals, Miami would put on the zone against the Celtics, and they would all of a sudden forget how to play. And they adjusted, made the right passes, and iced the game despite the defensive change from the Lakers. And they didn't take the bait to start chucking threes, which is the best part. KJ, how many threes did they take total tonight?
The Celtics took,
yes,
do quick math, 33s, which is
33s.
the same amount as Lakers. Yeah. And I think
they took,
because they were averaging a ton coming out.
Yeah, they took 41 on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think it's important for them to cut down on the threes, especially with the personnel they've got right now. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons they played so well tonight is because they didn't settle for those shots. Richardson got to a lot of mid-range spots to shoot. So did Schroeder. That's big. I'd say to Jack all the time.
They've been averaging 36.5 per game this year.
Okay. Below average.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's under what they were at. And I agree with you for the most part. I think the thing that stands out about the Celtics is, and we mentioned it in the offseason, is they kind of have bigs that can shoot now. And, Hernan Gomez hasn't played much at all. So, that hasn't worked out the way. But it really comes back to Horford. And the fact that you have Horford now who can space the floor. So, it feels like they're more of a three-point shooting team. And Grant Williams is playing more, and he's a decent enough three-point shooter. He's a capable three-point shooter. So, it feels like they can space the floor, which has led to them shooting a lot of threes. The weird thing is, you look at Grant and Al, and for their positions where they're playing, Grant is a little weird because it's power forward, and power forwards, small forwards now is kind of that line has been blurred so much over the last few years. But just theoretically speaking, you have bigs that can shoot, let's say, above average for most bigs, right? Even though Al's been struggling this year, he's still, you would say, an above average shooter. For the
expectation is there.
Yeah. So that leads you to believe you're going to be a heavy three-point shooting team. The problem is that your guards are actually below average three-point shooters. Like Dennis Schroeder, Marcus Smart, they're below average for what you expect from guards in the league. Never mind the other guys. So they can't really stretch the floor as much. So their strength is inside. And I think that what you might find is that the strength of your team is going to be the fact that you can actually allow Dennis Schroeder to play more inside, and Al Horford will space the floor for him as much as he's going to be spacing the floor for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and those guys. And I know that you're big on this too. You're going to need Nesmith to come along a little bit to add that extra shooting you're going to need. But for now, if you need to play this way, it might actually work to be inside out with Schroeder kind of being one of your go-to scorers, inside the arc.
Yeah, Schroeder's proven himself to be such a good scorer so far. I have no problem playing through him. And having Al Horford being able to at least keep the defense honest, despite making the threes or not making them, I don't think he's someone they're just going to leave. Same with Grant. Grant has proven himself so far this year.
Cantor. Can't forget about Cantor. He nailed at the end.
Cantor and Dwight trading blows at the end of the game.
Wow. Throwback, you got to say.
Electric. I think Cantor hit a three the last time they blew out the Lakers too in garbage time. I could be wrong about that.
Hey, maybe it's turning into a thing. That Cantor 3-point shot, and I'll tell you what, if he actually had a three, I know he still can't defend for shit, but if he had a 3-point shot,
much more useful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and Lon saying, imagine if this game with Rob and JB were in the building for something big. They already won by 22. And you're down 2 players, and the Lakers weren't really down anybody, right? They had LeBron back, and he played well, so you can't really say, well, it was his first game back. He had 23 points, 6 boards, 5 assists. He had 2 steals, and or 2 assists, I guess. I was reading that wrong. But he shot great from the floor too. And by the way, I know that you're going to agree with me on this. I know I'm not going to get any pushback from you for saying this, but what if that's? I know you would look at 23 and 2 assists, and you'd say for LeBron that's low. And 2 assists is low. I don't want to act like the 2 assists is. But as far as the scoring goes, what if that's just who LeBron is now? LeBron's a little older. Eventually, there's going to be a little bit of deterioration. If LeBron is a 23-point per game scorer now, would that surprise you? Because it wouldn't surprise me. I almost expect that at this point.
Well, I say it surprises me because I think the rest of this Lakers team really is bad. Okay, so for them to be any good, he's going to have to turn it on. And it's so strange to me.
This is what I say. But this is what I'll say about turning it on. I don't know that he can. I know that's the way we always talk about.
I think he can.
You think he? Because
just look at what you saw tonight. They really didn't have an answer for him. I don't know why they didn't just play through him hardcore.
I wonder if he can handle that load anymore. I don't
Maybe he
think he
can.
can. I mean, at 36 now, about to be 37. I don't want to disrespect the great LeBron James. I'm just saying I'm expecting a little bit of a drop off. And last season and the last two, really, it's been there's small little decline. I think I mentioned this. I forget what the stats were exactly, but he had like career lows in certain stat categories last season. I forget what they were exactly, but he was kind of quietly on the decline. And so I'll try to find him again. I'll try to see if I can spot him here. But there's like a growing thing with LeBron where it's like this guy might not be like this unstoppable force anymore. I don't know that he can just flip a switch and be the best player in the world. I don't know if he has that gear anymore in him.
Well, I will say this. Okay. One, he looked really dominant tonight. However, I think you have a point because if he really was that dominant, they would have just kept going to him. I don't know if that was on Vogel that they didn't want to keep playing through him, but he seemed like he could get whatever he wanted to. And that was a problem. Like they were playing perfect defense. He was netting these fadeaways like nothing.
So these are some quick ones. His rebounds per game average last season was his lowest since his assists per games average last season was his lowest in 5 years. I think it was something like 4 or 5 years. And his points per game average last year was his lowest since his rookie season, his rookie year. So, look, I'm just saying, watch out. I know that I think there's even a tendency, especially in this part of the country, when a star player, especially an all-time great, one of the greatest ever, gets older, to say like, oh, that guy is, saying that guy is going to fall off is idiotic, because we've seen Tom Brady didn't fall off, but I just think just because Tom Brady did it doesn't mean it's still not going to happen to other athletes. And I think LeBron James, this is not the same LeBron James we saw at the end of his career in Cleveland. Like this guy's just, he's not as good as he was 4 years ago.
Yeah. And to your point from earlier, right? You said he might not be like this dominant guy that's just bullying everyone. And you might be right thinking about his performance today, right? I thought he looked fantastic. He was kind of getting where he wanted in terms of fadeaways. He wasn't bullying guys down and, backing them down and running through them, getting to the rim.
Yeah.
So that is a fantastic point.
And do you think maybe there was even an element to it of like, well, do we want to feed LeBron over and over again, or are we risking just him getting injured again if we do that? You know what I mean? Like he shot great. They could have gave him a higher workload. Maybe he would have continued to be really efficient, and he would have scored more points and kept them in it. But maybe they were like, you know what, we can't put too much on his plate.
Yeah, he's also coming off, for what it's worth, an abdominal injury. I don't know how serious those tend to be. I haven't suffered one, but they might not have wanted to kill him in his first game back either.
I saw this before. Rosin saying, "Hang on, none of you guys look like Ev. What is this?" I actually reject that. I think Sam looks a tiny bit like Ev.
Do I? I don't know.
I think if you put both of us together, I got the shorter hair, you got the long, but you got the color. So if you put the two of us together, we kind of almost make an Ev,
Well, that's why we're both here.
Yeah, exactly. It makes perfect sense when you really think about it. Land saying, extend Schroeder now. Just a great guy with pretty nice YouTube videos. I don't know if he's talking about us or Dennis Schroeder.
I think Schroeder does YouTube.
He does? Okay. I haven't checked it out.
Look. But
yeah,
to the point of this, I know it's not likely that they are able to keep him around, but if they are, I think that would be huge. I just don't think it's possible. But if they find a way, like if he falls in love with it in Boston or something, he's just been so key.
Because the other thing I'm thinking is, I don't even think there's a path unless he takes an insane discount, which I can't imagine him doing. Because theoretically, there's a path with other guys where you say like, oh, sign and trade or this or that, whatnot, But with Schroeder, you can't sign and trade him with anybody. You don't have his bird rights, so like you can't really do anything, honestly. So it's kind of stinks that it's a 1-year rental, but it's working out as well as any 1-year rental possibly could. I mean, like usually with those guys, it's like, he's just trying to get paid and you don't know that much about team chemistry and all this stuff. but it seems like he's really gelling with the guys well, and everybody's like fine with the role he's in. There's really no fighting there or anything like that. Like it seems like everything's pretty much going exactly according to plan.
Yeah, like who's like the last prove it guy that's actually proved it?
I don't know.
Really, like
there were some people that, like when they brought Schroeder in, they were worried about it. They didn't know if they wanted Schroeder. They were like, well, is this guy going to be a problem for the locker room? This or that? Like, are we sure we just want to pay this guy, just fumble the bag? He's going to be trying to maybe be a little selfish. Like, it doesn't seem like any of that's been a problem. The last prove it guy, I can't think off the top of my
head. In basketball, like there are other sports that works, but
yeah, like, do we want to say, like, I don't know, man. Like, what about I
maybe
don't know, Bobby Portis or Reggie Bullock or something? Like, I don't.
Portis is a good one. I think Carmelo's a fair one too. He had to get back
what
in
about
the league.
D'Angelo Russell with the Nets? And
that's a good one too. Yeah.
When he got traded, I don't know if that you want to count that.
Then he got himself paid.
When you throw in there, but yeah, this is. If you guys have any in the chat, you can throw them in there. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, more trash talking of LA stuff like that. Late saying shocked Tatum only had 2 assists. Watching this, it looked like one of his best games as a playmaker. Do you agree with that, Sam?
Yeah, I do. I don't remember who tweeted it. Might have been John Corrales that said it. Yeah, he only had 2 assists, but he made like 20 key passes. Like, I don't know.
Wasn't there that stat floating out there about potential assists? Like his potential.
Yeah, Jack loves that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know it's Jack. Jack loves
the stat man.
Yeah, but you think it was the same case tonight?
Yeah, I think. Well, it might not be potential assists. It might be hockey assists that he was getting, or maybe, just like opening up the defense with the pass he makes. I thought he was great at making the right decision tonight.
I mean,
and I was just impressed. He finally was finishing around the rim.
Yeah, I mean, and just talk about so efficient. You know what I mean? Because
yes, happy to see him being efficient for sure.
Because he was struggling all across the board. Like I mentioned, I don't know. Did you see the stat I tweeted out? It was that I think I tweeted on Gabba Sports, and I might have mentioned it with you. I think even that he was last in effective field goal percentage among 20-point per game scorers. Did you remember you saying that?
I think you did say that.
Yeah, before
I know another one you had was the Pritchard stat with no steals. Yeah. Him and Mo Wagner hanging out.
Yeah, that was rough. But no, it's the fact that Tatum was so bad across the board. You could throw even free throw percentage in there. And tonight, guess what? 7 of 7 from the line. So I was wondering when the bounce back was going to come, and it's right on cue. Like right as we started talking about it, we had our Celtics Power Hour show that we've been doing on Tuesday. And then as soon as we do that and we talk about should we be concerned about Jason Tatum, he's like, no. Sam, I think there's a trend here. Anytime I criticize a Celtic, they start playing, well, who should I criticize next? We did Josh Richardson, had Jason Tatum. Is there another guy that we need? Like maybe Peyton Pritchard? Is Peyton Pritchard?
Criticize Neesmith or Romeo. Romeo's been okay, but he could be probably better offensively.
Yeah, those are the targets, the young guys. We got to either go after Pritchard or Neesmith. I'm going to go Pritchard or Neesmith. We'll go
just go the whole bunch, the 3 of them. They need a kick in the ass.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually good. That'd be a good, just group them all together. Celtics need more from their young guys. The gears are churning, Sam. I can just write about all 3 and say the Celtics aren't getting enough out of these guys. You know what I mean? And the young players on the roster, but they really aren't. I mean,
yeah,
because I think we all thought those 3 were going to play bigger roles on the team, all 3 of them, than they have this season.
Yeah, I really thought they were like an X factor coming into the season. Okay, so if Pritchard and Neesmith play the way they did in the preseason, it opens a lot of doors for the team because it gives you versatility. You can bring those guys in if you need scoring. Both of them were shooting the lights out, even creating shots. Neesmith was scoring in the mid-range, getting to the paint. Now they're both kind of relegated to stand off the ball and catch and shoot and play minimum minutes and try and get their groove going. And it's not working for them. So if the Celtics were getting more of those guys, we might not have seen any of these problems that they've had so far this season. I mean, aside from today, they've been horrible offensively.
And then Slim Shady saying, I don't know how we won that one by that much with LeBron back. And
because the rest of that team is bad. Him and Davis are the only ones that can play.
I mean, all right. So let's take. I mean, the fact that I will say the fact they're starting Avery Bradley now with how like Avery Bradley got cut by the Warriors in the preseason, and the fact that he's starting on their roster, like that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, Avery Bradley did. I think he gave him all right minutes. He was a pest for Schroeder early. He
He was
made a couple
okay tonight,
threes.
but like most of the season, he hasn't been. You know what I mean? And
I have
by
not
the
been
way,
watching.
for all the kind of like, how do I even say this? Like all of the hype and praise and like just like drooling over THT that people across the country have done like over the like this entire season. Like he was brutal tonight. He did not help them at all. Like
Jack warned me about him. He said he might be the guy that upsets me today.
did he?
No. Well, no.
Yeah, not even a little bit.
Him and
Okay.
Westbrook, I'm big fans of those guys.
Yeah, big fans of those on the guys on the Lakers. Yeah, Westbrook. Didn't he have like 6 points entering the fourth quarter too?
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah, he was horrible.
awful, awful.
He not only was he bad, but he took shots at very bad times.
Yeah.
Davis did the same thing. They both were chucking threes at times where this is the thing that the Celtics have done horribly this season. Tatum in particular, they take threes when they're on the wrong side of a run and they're desperate to kill the momentum, and they just feed into it.
And you know what happened then? They went small, which remember when the Rockets did that when they and Westbrook and Harden because it was the only way Westbrook was effective. So the Lakers did that. They put Westbrook out there, and they couldn't rebound after that, and it killed them there too. And that's when they just said, "All right, take him out. Like we can't do anything with him right now."
I still think Westbrook can succeed with the right fit because his play style does
fit with him now, though. Like, do you have to build the whole team around it, basically?
Well, I'll say this. To me, Westbrook, at least from what I saw tonight, I have not been watching a lot of Lakers, especially since they're on the West Coast and I work at 4 a.m. most weekdays. But the way he was trying to drive tonight was not the way someone that's a slashing player should be going. He would like go at odd angles, try and use his body more than his speed, which maybe he's losing his speed. I don't know.
Maybe.
But okay, if you want to slide him in somewhere, the Celtics are a team that I think would be interesting just because of how well Schroeder's played and the impact he's been able to make by going to the basket. But Russ did not look like someone that was driven to go to the basket tonight. He's fine with trying to shoot little bank shots and, shoot threes and watch the ball fly off the rim.
But here's the problem with Westbrook is that if you have him on your team, like it's not as if he's going to be an off-ball player for you. He needs to be someone you like build the offense around. And I don't think that like it's his days as being a player that's effective in a role like that, where if things are centered around him, are just numbered. Like that's just the matter of the fact. So you either need Westbrook to dominate the ball, which he's not good enough at anymore to be on a contender. He's not good enough to be a best player anymore on a playoff team. I think that's been established.
Oh, for sure.
Or you need him to have a limited role, and he can't do that either. His best traits are his passing. I guess you would still say his athleticism, even though that's waning. But there's only a handful of teams I look at and be like, okay, maybe it would work there. Like Miami has been mentioned as a destination for John Wall. Maybe that could work. They've been decent enough three-point shooting this season. I mean, if you put him in like New York at this point instead of Kemba, and he had the shooting that they like New York.
New York, another one of my favorite teams.
Yeah, I think they're like maybe top 5.
We're not good.
Close to top 5 in 3-point percentage this year for the Knicks. So something like that. So like if he's on a team with shooters, which you've always said about Westbrook, maybe. But even then, I think we've seen like in Houston, it still doesn't work for this guy. Not at this point in his career.
Yeah, we were talking about Marcus Smart, right? Marcus needs to buy into this role. I think Westbrook needs to buy into a role as well, and I don't think he's going to do that. An example would be Melo, right? Melo was out of the league because he didn't want to come off the bench, and then he finally came around to it, bought into it, found his footing with Portland, and now he's having himself an all right season with the Lakers where he's making an impact off the bench. I don't know if Westbrook needs to be a bench player, but he needs to buy into more of secondarily trying to score himself and primarily trying to set other guys up because nobody's afraid of him scoring. They want him trying to score.
And every time he chucked up a three tonight, I was happy. I was smiling every time I saw Westbrook shoot a three. I was welcoming it. It was great. So it's, and I think that's how most teams feel. Meanwhile, more Laker bashing. The Lakers must start Dwight. AD is not the answer at the center spot. He refuses to play on the low block. This is another problem facing the Lakers too. So many things that are they're wrong with them now, and it feels like, I mean, I don't think the Lakers have any chance this season. I would be surprised if they made it out of the first round of the playoffs.
I agree. I told you that before the season. Whoever would listen, I was telling them. The Lakers.
No, I agreed with you. I thought.
No, I know you did. Jack did not.
Yeah, I don't know why Jack. What was Jack's point even about the Lakers? Just talent.
He was sold on it. I did not get it. I was like, Jack, what? First of all, the Warriors are back, and I was saying that before the season.
I didn't think that was going to happen.
They've been fantastic.
Not without Clay. I didn't think this was going to be like this.
I didn't know. I didn't know to my own detriment here. I did not know Clay was not playing to start the season.
Yeah,
but I'm still happy to be right.
I'm shocked. So. I will say this though, that the whole thing with Westbrook is only amplified by the fact that like Washington's been really good. It's like you can see how much of a negative this guy's been.
Isn't that funny?
Are actually thriving without him.
Harrell's also the best player on the planet. So
yeah, I
mean, when he played the Celtics, he was.
It's been bad, and you know, I don't. They just don't have enough shooting. Like the idea of having LeBron on your team is the same as Westbrook, and now you put those two guys together, and their best shooter is Carmelo Anthony. Like, think about that for a second.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's crazy. You put Russell Westbrook and LeBron James on a team, and their best and some of their best role players are Rajon Rondo and Dwight Howard. And it's like, do you know how to build? Who built this team? Like, who was the idiot that put this all together?
LeBron handpicked the team. He got all his buddies.
And it's like, okay, we need a shooter. Let's go sign Malik Monk. It's like, there's a good idea. Finally,
there was a market for Malik Monk, to be fair.
He
took a vet minimum or minimum contract to play there.
The Lakers are just a disaster. And then remember the LeBron comment before the season? Oh, I hope you're sleeping on it, calling us old, all this stuff, calling me and my teammates old.
He loves to make himself the underdog. See, this is where I'll bash LeBron. I thought he played good today, or played well, however you would like me to speak grammatically. But I just think he's still a prick. Like he's a player that he wants to be the greatest of all time, but then he wants people to call him an underdog. Like, make up your mind. What do you want to be?
By the way, I bet you loved when an Cantor called him out this week too. Huh?
I did. I sent it to you guys. I said, this is fantastic.
Adding to that rivalry, just the old Cantor LeBron. Remember when LeBron fouled him in I think it was the second quarter?
Yeah, he got in his face.
They just both walked away from each other, and I was thinking, oh boy, like that, because that now goes deeper than just on court stuff. Like those guys, like in real life, don't like each other.
Good. I wish more players would like voice their displeasure with other players. Like, it doesn't happen. Everybody's buddy. There's no like rivalry or distaste for these guys that are like divas. I don't get it. Like, I don't think Cantor has played very well at all this season, but I like that he's on the team because he has that about him where he has the balls to speak up and say he doesn't like another player. He doesn't really care.
Rosin asking, okay, seriously though, getting back on topic, how did we blow the Lakers out without Jalen and Rob? That's still not sinking in. And really, I think it's actually a really simple answer.
They got contributions everywhere.
Yes, you got some of the best games you could have asked for from four of your extreme. Actually, well, I was going to say four of your key role players, but even throw Tatum in there and say you're arguably, I think not even arguably, your five best players in this game all played to their peak. I mean,
everybody showed up.
Yeah, and Josh Richardson, you might not even say his peak, but 15 points, 5 of 11, 4 of 6. I mean, he could have shot a tad bit better, especially from the line. But it was like you said it. Everybody showed up tonight. Everybody played about as well as you could have possibly expected them to. Al continues to look like a spring chicken out there, like with the athleticism he's showing off. I mean, what an acquisition he was. It's just you can't say enough
I was
about
hyped about that one too. I
Were
had
you
my
right about
crystal
that one
ball
too?
out this summer, KJ.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Sam was hitting all the right cues there, all the right buttons. I mean, Al Horford, I thought it was just a salary ad, a little bit of leadership, player you prefer over Kemba for one reason or another. Brad Stevens just had a man crush on Al Horford, but as it turns out, Al Horford has been. You could argue that trade was one hell of a steal now by Brad Stevens, even with the pick in there, like. He in turning Moses Brown into Josh Richardson, like that was a masterful move.
Yeah, and as far as the pick goes, they don't need any more picks.
Yeah,
I mean, they've got enough young guys that they don't have
that's
any
a great
space
point.
to play.
So throw the pick out. You traded Kemba Walker for Al Horford, who's been key, and Moses Brown, and you flip Moses Brown for Josh Richardson. Like, would you rather have? It's pretty. How many Kemba Walkers would it take to add up to the contributions that Al Horford and Josh Richardson are giving you so far this year? I mean,
they've both been great.
I mean, you're talking about like 4 or 5 times the value there, in my opinion.
I think Brad has hit on all 3 of the big offseason acquisitions.
He's done great.
Schroeder, Horford, Richardson, all have been great.
So we do the Kemba for just to say Kemba for Al Horford and Richardson, right? So you get those 2 out of it. And then on top of that, let me say, who would you rather have right now? Dennis Schroeder or Kemba Walker?
Well, I mean, it's obvious because, Schroeder's just playing better. But in terms of fit, I think it's better for Schroeder too because he's quicker.
So, he's healthier. He's quicker. He's better scorer right now. I mean, Kemba's not scoring great. I mean, Kemba might be a little bit better shooter. But
Kemba's getting benched in the 4th quarter of every game.
Yeah. So you upgraded at point guard and traded your hobbled point guard for 2 players that are playing major roles for you. I mean, how could he have possibly maneuvered that any better?
He couldn't really, unless convinced KD to request a buyout and said, hey, come play for the Celtics.
Everybody loves Rosin's points tonight. Rosin's killing it in the chat. Shout out to Rosin, making some great points tonight. Westbrook, you mean Westbrick. I said it every time he chucks up a 3. I'm fine with it. Westbrook, worst attribute is him trying to set people up. He's a turnover machine. Wasn't too bad tonight, but that's been another part of it. It is
plays
crazy.
Reckless. That's why he turns it over.
Yeah, and I say that his best quality is build a team around, but that's the problem with him because it's just it's such a yin and yang with him always. It's so problematic. Phil saying Tatum finally finding a rhythm. Razin, I like how despite LeBron sinking every shot, the Celtics didn't let him beat them. Regularly double teamed him, forcing him to give the ball up. And he was incredibly efficient tonight, but somehow the Lakers their supporting cast couldn't do it. Especially, like I said, THT was brutal tonight.
I think that's just been the story of the season, though, for them. I mean, they're wildly inconsistent. That's why they're below 500, or they are at 500.
And you know what's most disgraceful? They not only because Sam, it's one thing. It is one thing to go out and put Russell Westbrook on your team and to take that risk and to do so when you already have LeBron. We mentioned all the problems with that, right?
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing to, in doing so, tear down your entire roster to get Russell Westbrook on your team.
Yeah.
And build it back up from the bottoms, from the studs. I mean, talk about a double disgrace there, right? It's like, how do you do that? How do you allow your team to completely fall apart and say, all right, we're just going to get Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook together and just build the rest back up? It's like, no, that's not the guy you do that for. You do that for an Anthony Davis caliber player. You don't do that for a Russell Westbrook caliber player.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. Twitter told me the Lakers are going to be good, KJ. They told me the Lakers were going to win a title. They said all they're easy favorites to win the title. Westbrook puts them over the top.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the Lakers are so good again. Oh, LeBron's going to go get his 5th. Oh, this, that. Yeah, we're 17 games in, and there's
Rosin's
I'm
saying he was
sure.
with you, saying, he called it from the beginning too.
Yes.
Russell Lakers, bad idea. And also it's like, okay, well, yeah, you're right. We need their sporting cast now. So who else should we get? How about Carmelo Anthony, who's not what he used to be? DeAndre Jordan, who's washed. Dwight Howard, just like Rajon Rondo. Again, if I think people have said this, if this was 2013, 2012, Lakers would be looking nice, but not the case. Like, I don't know. It's almost like one of those GMs got in a time machine and forgot the year he was in to build this team like this. It was ridiculous. And you said it was LeBron. I think Pelinka is culpable. I always wondered though, because you heard they were close to that Buddy Hield deal, and then all of a sudden they just get Westbrook. So you know what? And I know you'll love this, but the conspiracy theory in my brain goes, so I wonder if Pelinka was on a trade call with the Kings, and at the same time LeBron was on a trade call with the Wizards, and LeBron called Pelinka and said, actually, yeah, no, we just traded for Westbrook, and that's how all that stuff went down. Like,
I thought I saw that like LeBron put an end to that and said, no, let's go get Westbrook. Like, I thought that was obviously he's not on the phone with them, but I think there was some truth to that. Like, he had Westbrook at his house or something, like right when that was all happening. And
you know what stinks is, like, I don't want to say stinks. Like, if the Lakers are bad, like, I'll more the merrier. But I thought LeBron was smarter than that. I really thought LeBron was smarter than to think that him and Westbrook would make a good pairing. Because over the whole
yeah, I don't know what he was thinking, because he definitely pushed for that in some degree.
Like, did he think it would be like him and Wade? Like, is that what he thought it was going to be like? Because it's just that wouldn't work anymore. I mean, over the whole course of his career, he's made smart moves. Jumping from Cleveland when he did, going back to Cleveland when he did, leaving Miami.
You say smart, I say weak.
Well, yes, but leaving Miami at the time was the right call. Going to a team with Kyrie Irving, getting Kevin Love, getting rid of Andrew Wiggins, like, those were all the right moves, right? And then going to the Lakers when he did, getting Anthony Davis to pair up with him, like, all the right moves there if you're just trying to focus on what your best chance to win is. And then Westbrook, like, that was your next call? Like, to me, this is the worst call that I don't want to. I feel like we're going to blame LeBron for this. And, we're speculating. Who knows how much of this was really LeBron? I know that and it could have been all, who knows? I just don't want to lump it all in there and then people come and say, LeBron didn't make that trade or all this stuff. I don't want that to come back around. But if this was his call in any way, shape, or form, this is the worst call he has made over the course of his entire career. From a winning standpoint, you can talk about cowardly standpoint. I know that's what you're focusing on. But from a winning standpoint, he has never made a worse decision.
I think, like, the move was, like, out of desperation. Okay, so one thing that I think is a huge problem, at least now, like in current day, is that, okay, they lose in the first round last year to Phoenix. And I don't remember seeing him take responsibility for it. So instead of taking responsibility for it, whether he thinks it's his fault or not, all these moves are made. The team's gutted because they obviously don't believe they can win with that bunch anymore because they got bounced the first round. So they say, what can we do? Let's make a splash. So they want to get Westbrook, which to me doesn't make any sense, as you said.
Yeah, and Phil saying Lakers still trash with the fraud back. It'd be something if they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, they were, and I know LeBron was injured, but they were, playing team last year. I wouldn't be shocked with the same thing again this year. Saying they should trade for Nurkic. Who knows if he's even going to be available? Maybe. It depends what the Blazers do between now and then, but maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Can they even match salary? Maybe with THT and some other pieces, but like if Kendrick Nunn they can trade. Like,
I thought he was talking about the Celtics.
Oh, I thought he was talking about the Lakers. I don't know if I think he was more talking about the Lakers, but
he might be.
Yeah, I think that's where he was going with that. The Lakers are going to want Dame. That's what the Lakers want to see.
Well, now, now they have to get Dame.
Go more, and then we'll wrap things up here. The Celtics should trade for Steven Adams at the time. So maybe he was talking about the Celtics because he has Nurkic, and then now he's saying Steven Adams.
No, Steven Adams is not a good fit.
I think the Celtics are pretty good at center. With Horford.
I think they could use a third guy because you see this. Rob Williams is out.
Third guys like Nurkic and Steven Adams are like number one guys.
I'm out on Adams. Nurkic, I thought could be interesting if you wanted to shake things
But like
up.
you need like a bench guy. Like, but these guys are starters. These are starting caliber
Agreed.
centers we're talking about here. So I don't know if those. I mean, I don't know what names we can think of off the top of our heads that are like, backup caliber centers.
Jack is good for this.
Yeah, like I don't. I mean, if you want, I mean, yeah, I'd have to go through the entire league at this point. Like, it's not like you're getting anyone from the Wizards. That's the first team that comes to mind when I started thinking about backup.
Yeah, Harrell would be a great one, but they're playing too well.
Like Gaffer, they have both of those guys there. Like, both of those would be interesting. I don't know. You want to try to go get Kelly Olynyk back from the Pistons if if they are interested in trading him. I don't know.
Playing defense though. I think if you're bringing someone off the bench to play center, I think it's important that they play defense. And I think your ideal backup center is a Rob Williams type. I think Rob Williams has outgrown that role, especially this year. He's played well next to Horford in the starting lineup, which is not something I expected. I thought they were going to have to choose between them and bring one off the bench. Thought it would be Williams. But he gives you energy. He's athletic. He plays good defense underneath. Dunks the ball a lot. That's what you need off the bench. I don't think you need a Kelly Olynyk type to where he's going to be shooting threes and all that. If that was the case, I think Juancho would get more run.
Maybe. But I still think Kelly's pretty dang talented. I mean, if he was here, he'd play and you'd be able to use it. I mean, you'd be able to utilize him, especially if you wanted that mix of, because when you have Horford just out there at center, it can get a little wonky. If you had Horford and Kelly out there both at the same time, like you'd have the bigs you could have with rebounding and everything like that, especially with the way Horford's rebounded. You'd have size out there, but you'd also be able to stretch the floor. Like that could potentially work. As far as centers to target, I mean, yeah, there's not a lot to really look at, especially because like the backups you would consider like mid-tier backups to me at least, and these guys are maybe
perhaps a Daniel Tice.
Daniel Tice, did someone say that in the chat? Is that what
no?
Go with that one?
Razin said Favors. The guy.
Derek Favors, another. So Daniel Tice, bring him back. That'd be something. He's with the Rockets now, right? So that'd be certainly interesting. Some of the guys that you can think of off the top of your head, like Hassan Whiteside, JaVale McGee, they're on contenders, so I don't really think they're going to be traded anytime soon.
Where's JaVale playing? Is he in Denver still?
JaVale's in Philly now. Or sorry, not Philly. JaVale's in Phoenix now. Is what
Phoenix. Okay.
Yeah. So he's making a bit of an
he's not leaving.
There. You know what could be interesting? Name, and this is in the vein of the Nurkic mention. What about someone like, if they are pretty sure they're not going to contend this year because Kawhi's out? What about Zubac? If you wanted to bring Zubac in on a...
Well, I don't, unless he's on a contract here, I don't think they're getting rid of him. I think he's a foundation piece to their role players, if that makes sense.
Maybe,
he's a staple.
But I don't know. It would depend, I think. I don't know if I'd go as far as to call him a staple. I think maybe that's near the high end of guys that I think are attainable. Like, to me, if you're the Clippers and you're like, we're not winning it this year, like maybe that's a guy that comes available. I don't know. I think more obtainable than Nurkic potentially as well. I'll say for that. But anyway, we're gonna pretty much wrap things up here. One more comment from Rosin because he's been the most active in the chat. How the Lakers better with Caruso as their point guard than Westbrook? That was the real loss for them, right? It's like
Caruso probably plays his role. Westbrook tries to do too much. It's a problem.
I mean, Caruso. And did you see all Caruso's quotes this week of saying like he would have come back to LA if they matched his contract? And like,
no, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah,
it was a tough look.
Caruso and DeRozan were both saying like, yeah, we both thought we were going to LA, and they just switched up and went with Westbrook instead. And DeRozan wouldn't have been a great fit either, but it would have been better than Westbrook. Like, certainly would have.
Who knows from how well DeRozan's played this year.
Oh, yeah. And people thought that Chicago team was going to be a wonky fit. And
I did too. And I was out on Chicago. And I still don't know how good they're going to continue to be throughout the season. That is yet to be seen. But DeRozan, so far, they look good.
Yeah, the lack of shooting hasn't mattered. They've actually been really good shooting outside the arc. So it's worked there for them. But yeah, Caruso said that he was hoping the Lakers would match, and they just didn't. So that's unfortunate. Him and Lonzo have been thriving in Chicago. But Sam, thanks for coming on, making the time, doing the Bannertown build down today. I know I told kind of behind the scenes a little bit. Told Sam last minute, just was like, you know what, I want to have this nice little Bannertown. Had the Bannertown build down idea. I was like, gotta get Sam on, and it worked. I wish I know that he's probably driving home right now. I don't know if how many people know this. I think we might have mentioned it, but Jack's at the game right now. Wish we could have just
go to the game. Yes,
got him on. I didn't want to bother him because I know he was. I don't know how much we can say, but Jack was.
Oh, I said on the pregame. So
about just that he was on a little bit of a date tonight, Celtics game date, sort of, so to speak. I know that he's obviously a long time. They've been dating for a little while now, but don't want to ruin their night. So it must have been a good night. Anytime you go to a Celtics game, they blow out the Lakers. It's a good time. So I hope Jack enjoyed his night. I'm sure he'll be back soon. But yeah,
he'll be back tomorrow, dude. The grind does not stop for Jack.
Grind does not stop. Yeah, Jack Simone everywhere these days.
He's the Iron Man.
I don't know if we should shout out the Air app too much, but what the heck, we'll do it. Shout out to Air. Jack's on there now. I know both of you guys are on there, and everything like that. So it's been crazy. But Sam, thanks again. Appreciate it. Going on 11:22 at night. Back-to-back post-game streams for me, going past the 11 o'clock hour because I had to do the Patriots one last night. So it's been a couple late nights for me, but it's okay. I do it for the people on the YouTube guys. Sorry I wasn't here. I know you guys love seeing I have shotgun beers and whatnot, but we hope we filled in adequately.
I did my best. I mean,
I think we did a pretty good job.
Dancing on the grave is always a good time.
I know. I knew Sam was going to come on and do a great job bashing the Lakers. That's the one thing I could count on Sam for.
Well, I knew how to play my role. I'm no Westbrook. I knew exactly where I fit.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to end the stream here. Once again, tune in tomorrow. Fresh new Bannertown build up, and then the post game stream Ev should be back for maybe, I don't know, who knows. I don't know what Ev's plans are as far as his life, his crazy wacky life. But assuming he'll be back tomorrow, I haven't heard anything that he will be out yet. So anyway, thank you guys once again. Hit subscribe.